Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zhang Tianyi from School of Public Health in Southeast University in Nanjing City in China. And firstly, I have to say it's really my great honor to have the opportunity to present today. I appreciate a lot for the efforts by conference teams. And the topic I would like to speak is a study on cardiotoxicity effects induced by respiratory exposure to nanoplastics. I would like to introduce my work from three aspects: the background, the results, and the conclusion. We all know that the white pollution, which is caused by the plastic waste, has already been a hard nut to crack all over the world. Currently, it is reported that the world produces over 390 million tons of plastics annually. And the plastic products could decompose into microplastics and nanoplastics on the physical, chemical, and the biological process. Due to their widely used in our life and the tiny sizes of microplastics or nanoplastics, they are very easy to be absorbed into human body. So we are very concerned about whether these particles could accumulate in our organs or what effects it would induce on our health. In fact, these problems has attracted much attention all over the world. Some previous researchers have found that the microplastics or nanoplastics could penetrate the vessels and enter into the blood system and accumulate in multiple organs, causing a broader range of toxicological effects, such as hepatotoxicity, neurotoxicity, and reproductive toxicity. Although the scientists have performed some important work, there remains a large gap in totally understanding the toxicity of micro or nanoplastics. For example, most of the current research focuses on the injury effects caused by eating or drinking the plastics, while they all ignored that the nanoplastics actually could be inhaled into our body. Recent research has found that there are a large number of micro or nanoplastics in the air environment in many cities all over the world, and the potential hazards induced by respiratory exposure cannot be ignored. So my colleagues and I mainly focus on the potential injury caused by respiratory exposure to nanoplastics. Some of the previous studies have demonstrated that the micro or nanoplastics could be a new cardiovascular risk factor, but there are only some in vitro experiments using the myocardial cell lines, or the experiments are based on zebrafish as the experiment model. So the evidence of nanoplastics-induced cardiotoxicity was very limited. We are wondering whether heart could be the potential target after respiratory exposure to nanoplastics. In theory, due to the special physiological structure of the cardiopulmonary system, the micro or nanoplastics could flow into the left ventricle through pulmonary veins after penetrating the air-blood barrier and bring out the potential cardiac damage. So then, our teams designed some experiment to confirm our speculation, and I would like to introduce some of our work by using mice as the experiment models. Firstly, we set multiple exposure dosage, including low dose, medium dose, and high dose. And we set the multiple exposure duration, including exposure for 1 week, 4 weeks, and 12 weeks, to explore the acute, subacute, and subchronic toxicity of the nanoplastics. After nanoplastics exposure, firstly, we found that the nanoplastics could accumulate in heart after subacute and subchronic exposure. Then we detected the effects on mouse body weight, heart weight, and heart body weight index after respiratory exposure to nanoplastics. There were no changes in body weights, heart weights, or organ coefficients after acute and subacute exposure. But subchronic exposure resulted in significant body and heart weight loss in mice, with no change in the heart body weight index. We used echocardiography to evaluate the cardiac performance of mice. There was no change in ejection fraction, EF, or short axis fraction or shortening, FS, after 1 week exposure. However, the values of EF and FS significantly decreased in a dose-dependent manner after 4 weeks and 12 weeks of exposure. To further evaluate the changes in cardiac structure, HE staining was performed. We can see that the myocardium was arranged neatly and tightly in the control group, whereas disorganized myofilament arrangement and myocardial fragmentation started to appear in the high-dose group after exposure for 4 weeks. And the structure was further disorganized after 12 weeks exposure. We used the maximum staining to measure the degree of collagen deposition. Cardiac fibrosis was considerably increased after exposure for 12 weeks, whereas no change was found after 4 weeks exposure. It reminds us that long-term exposure of nanoplastics could increase the risk of fibrosis in heart. Then we used the TEM to detect ultrastructural damage in the heart. Compared to the control group, the myocardial fibers were disordered and disrupted, with the mitochondria swelling and deforming in the high-dose group after 4 weeks exposure. Moreover, the crystal of mitochondria disappeared gradually, and the above ultrastructural damage was more obvious as the exposure time was prolonged to 12 weeks. Compared to the functional loss or the structural disorders in the heart, the biomarkers are more sensitive and could reflect myocardial injury in the early stage. So we lastly detect some injury biomarkers, including cTNT, AMP, NT-proBNP, and LDH. And we also detect the inflammation and oxidative stress levels. In general, these markers, these injury levels were significantly elevated in a dose-dependent manner after only 1 week exposure. To summarize our research, this study systematically investigated cardiac injury in mice induced by multi-concentration and multi-duration respiratory exposure to nanoplastics. The results showed that acute nanoplastics exposure has already induced cardiotoxicity in a dose-dependent manner. Subacute and subchronic treatment could result in the accumulation of nanoplastics in the heart with more structurally and functionally damaging effects than acute exposure. That's all. Thank you for listening.